Welcome
Hey-o.
to Bledsoe Said So.
Welcome.
You know who we are. You know what? I wanted to show this. I can't remember who sent this, but someone, I'm going to find it before the end of the episode, hopefully. Someone sent us these dope 3D printed Metatron's cubes. We do have a P.O. box.
Put your hand behind it so it focuses on the camera.
Yeah. They're these little 3D printed Metatron's cubes. Very cool. I love it. I had literally been thinking in my head, like, man, I want a 3D Metatron's cube, and then boom, it was sent to us.
Yeah, they are so cool. It was a complete surprise that came out of nowhere. I just showed up today, and they were like, hey, here's your Metatron's cube. It's like, huh? I've been sitting here twiddling with it for like the past 30 minutes.
It's pretty to look at.
It's beautiful. I love it. So whoever sent this to us, thank you so much.
I'm going to find it in the Instagram DMs. And
Okay,
then another thing, Alex and I did full disclosure the other night, and we were talking about this, and we were like, we should say this on the main show. But shout out to Blake and Daniel in the Discord, a.k.a. Balake and Captain Skippy. They have, of their own volition, created a clan on Rocket League. Bledsoe Said So podcast. They're both like diamond ranked.
Right.
And they're going out there, they're like whipping people's butts on Rocket League with the clan Bledsoe Said So podcast, and they're like pitching the show to people and actually like getting them to listen to the show. I thought that was so cool. We had to shout that out.
Yeah, I only briefly heard about that. I've been very busy of late. And I just briefly saw a little thing about it, and like I thought that was so funny. So they just started doing that.
Yeah, they were like,
playing-
"Oh shoot, you play Rocket League? Yeah, my clan's old." He's like, "My clan's old too. Let's make a new one." Bledsoe Said So podcast.
Ryan, and for the people who don't know, what is full disclosure?
Oh, it's our first Patreon show at the $5 tier, The River, and it's me and then Alex. Obviously, they were producing, and we just have conversations, typically about like what's on my mind or whatever I'm into at the moment, and just kind of really venting some stuff out and being super candid. And we really have a good time with it. We just did episode 40, almost a year.
That's amazing.
So pretty wild, and you know, before you guys know it, we should have some other Patreon stuff coming out soon. So.
Yeah, so if y'all want to see that super exclusive extra bonus show, patreon.com/Bledsoe Said So.
It is a great way to support the show.
Yeah, absolutely. What are we talking about today, fellers?
We are going to talk about Norse Viking myth.
I was trying to do the God of War, the God of War Ragnarok thing.
Row your boat.
I was gonna say, is that where that comes from?
Yeah.
What?
Really?
Is that where what comes from?
Row your boat.
No.
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 I was singing the thing from God of War Ragnarok, which, by the way, that's, I don't know, like, obviously, y'all can see, if you can see my tattoo, my favorite game is Kingdom Hearts. But when that God of War game came out in 2018, bro, it challenged everything I thought I knew about video games. That game put me in a different headspace. I've been thinking different after that.
Yeah, it's got you thinking.
It's got me thinking different.
Did it go game of the year?
It did, yes. It won Game of the Year, and I don't remember if the second one won Game of the Year.
No,
because it
didn't.
came out the same year as Elden Ring, I think.
Yeah.
Which is like
It was Elden Ring.
all hail.
Yeah, I was about
Like,
to say, no, it didn't. But you're
it's
talking
like
about the first
all
one.
hail.
Yeah,
Elden.
first one was definitely Game of the Year.
Yeah, and like you can't beat Elden Ring. That game is unbeatable. Like, but I mean, they're potentially, in terms of every aspect of a game, the 2018 God of War and then God of War Ragnarok are like, they're right next to Kingdom Hearts for my favorite game of all time. The thing that's so awesome about God of War as a series is that it's so deeply entwined with mythology. And I know this is a little tangent, but we are talking about Norse mythology today. The original God of War games are Greek mythology. It's about like a Spartan named Kratos. It's, you know, he gets betrayed by the god Ares, and he like basically kills the entire Greek pantheon to get revenge. Because Ares, dude, this is crazy, Alex. I guess you probably don't know this. Ares, God of War, tricks Kratos into killing his own wife and daughter. And that's like kind of how the plot of the original games start. And then the rest of the original games are just you playing as Kratos, brutally murdering the entire Greek pantheon of gods to get revenge.
It's sick.
It is so good.
I remember when the first one came out in 2005. I was like 12 and played it on the PS2, and it was just like, oh my god! Like, first of all, 12-year-olds shouldn't be playing that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But yeah, it was definitely like a life-changing, like, you know, just an amazing experience. And then, you know, what it became over time into the Norse stuff. But
Yeah, I that's another cool thing. Like, I learned a lot about Greek mythology from playing those original games.
Yep.
And then basically the original trilogy ends with you obviously murder your father Zeus, and then the world floods and all this stuff happens, and next thing you know, it was like, I don't know, probably 10 or 12 years later they made the next game. Boom, Kratos pops up in the Norse. He's like in Scandinavia. And so it's the Norse pantheon, and he's just trying to like stay reclusive. I like how this is turning into a God of War episode.
But there was a couple of other Norse pop culture things that I wanted to talk about.
Yeah. But then, yeah, you play through that game, and it teaches you a ton about Norse mythology as well. There were plenty of things that I learned that I didn't know before, like Balder, like about Balder.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, like, Ragnarok starts because Balder is killed. I didn't know that. We're gonna go into
Which makes
all
sense.
of
That's like the plot of the game.
exactly.
You kill Balder in the first
That's
one.
the first one, and
Yeah,
then
and
boom,
then
what's the
Fimbulwinter
next?
starts.
The next game is Ragnarok.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
I love that when
That's
you
deep.
kill Balder in the first game. Immediately, the first thing that happens is a snowflake hits his cheek. Immediately,
Yeah.
like as soon as you land the killing blow, you see a snowflake and it falls on. It's Fimbulwinter.
It's deep.
Yeah, it is. It's so deep. Okay, so Norse mythology. Norse mythology is, we were talking about it earlier. It's unique. It's particularly unique when it comes to mythology. It was like pretty much written by like one guy for the most part.
Norse mythology?
Well, the Eddas,
Wow.
like the, you know, so let's start with a little bit of the early history, which I think you have some history stuff too. a
Not
little
really
bit.
history, more so like mythological.
So check it out. The Norse mythology, the roots of it come from this like dual document, this book containing two. It was like a book containing two books, known as the Edda or the Edda. The two books, or the medieval Icelandic literary works, they're the poetic, the poetic Edda and the prose Edda. Which this is really interesting. Edda, like etymologically, it could mean either poetic art, but it also equally translates to great grandmother.
What? That's weird.
Yeah, it's just like a weird little tidbit. But the Edda was written by an Icelandic scholar and historian, Snorri Sturluson, around the year 1220.
Did you say Snorri?
Yeah.
Man, I guarantee you he was sawing logs every night, bro. Just sawing logs.
He was sawing logs. He was probably like rolling off shrooms or like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because they have all those Icelandic stories. What's that?
Like
mushroom?
Lapland?
Yeah.
Oh, the Amanita muscaria?
Yeah. They had them. They had them.
Oh, they definitely had them.
He was probably popping them and sawing some logs. He was snoring some Sturlusons.
Wait a minute. Is this the same region and mushroom where the Christmas originated?
I mean, yeah, that's Lapland, Finland, right?
Right, it's
Isn't that
all-
Scandinavia. I don't know.
I feel like I remember the shamanistic Santa Clauses tripping
let's look it
mushrooms
up.
and
From Finland.
crawling down chimneys.
My sister's been to the real place, Lapland.
We're all just like dumb Americans. It is. It's in Scandinavia.
Don't pigeonhole me there.
Bro, you're just
Dumb
mad
American.
because I'm thinking different.
I'm seeing things different now.
Really? It sounds like Snorri Sturluson was definitely seeing things different.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's the Edda survives in 4 known manuscripts and 3 fragments. You know, this stuff is so old. They find it and,
Right.
and they piece it together and they translate
Very
it. and-
ancient.
Yeah, it's super ancient, and then so they wrote everything down that they collected again around the year 1300. So it was like found, collected around 100 years after that. So basically, unlike a lot of other mythology, this is like someone who claimed to be kind of downloading this information from the realm of Valhalla, which is like their sort of like their heaven. You know, in Norse mythology, there are multiple different afterlives, which we see in other mythologies. We see that in Greek mythology. You know, it's not just like heaven, hell. There's multiple,
Right.
But kind of the ultimate afterlife, if you will, in Norse mythology is Valhalla.
Right. That's like the hall where you celebrate with the gods for all eternity, right?
Yeah, yeah.
When you've died in battle.
Exactly. You only, according to this, like, it wasn't even really a religion amongst the Vikings. It was like low key. It was more culty.
Yeah.
They didn't even view it as a religion. Like, it was so deep that it was just a part of their lives. It wasn't something they had to try to do or commit to or whatever. If you were like born in this time and born into one of these Viking tribes or whatever, that's just what you did. You wanted to die in battle so that you would pass on to Valhalla.
It's messed up because they believe like the only way to get to Valhalla is literally dying in battle. And like if you died of like being sick or being elderly, you didn't go to Valhalla.
No. No.
Only in battle.
It was considered like
dishonorable.
like the utmost shame if you don't die in battle, to the point to where like if people were elderly or they were sick, it was very common for them to be like, they would even go to some of their friends or some of like the able warriors of the tribe and be like, fight me, kill me. Like I want to die in battle. So like, I want a chance to go to Valhalla and be with my forefathers.
That's so cool.
It's pretty epic.
It really, I mean,
That is so cool.
It is pretty cool. I mean, it's valiant, you know, it's dope. But one of the things about Valhalla, because you hear that, you're like, okay, so why is that the ultimate heaven if it's just like you die in battle, you get to go to a big hall with all your forefathers? Well, this is a very interesting thing about Norse mythology, which connects to Christianity, which is that there is a thing in Norse mythology known as Eden's Orchard.
Okay. Like the golden apple?
Yes.
Okay.
Idun is like how it's pronounced. Eden's apple, Eden's orchard, Eden's tree. So very similarly to Christian doctrine, whatever you want to call it, the Christian religion. Eden is the goddess of youth. She's the wife of Bragi. She's the goddess of, Bragi is the god of poetry. Eden guards the golden apples in Eden's orchard. These apples were said to give eternal youth and vigor to the gods. So according to Norse mythology, the reason that these gods were so powerful and immortal was because of these golden apples that came from Eden's orchard.
That's similar to Greek mythology, the golden blood ichor.
The ichor apples, yes, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, this is something that I wanted to touch on a little bit up front, is like, why are we talking about mythology, right?
Yeah.
Why is it important to talk about mythology? Well, one of the things that we do on this show, and a lot of like theosophy, for instance, that's another thing that you look at the intersection.
Right.
You look at the things that different religions or mythologies or whatever have in common. And yeah, I mean, you'll find so many similarities. The Norse myth has similarities to pretty much every other major religion. Like, we're going to talk about some similarities to Hinduism and Buddhism.
It reminds me of Kabbalah.
Oh, in what way?
The Sephiroth, the tree of life, but all the realms are connected by this tree. And you travel through the tree to reach the other dimensions. But it's metaphorical.
Yeah, and it's like there's always some trees.
Yeah.
There's always trees.
Yeah. The tree of knowledge in
the Bible.
In the Garden of Eden, and the fruit from the tree. It's
so we're jumping, like, if you jump to in Norse mythology, there is at the end, there's a prophecy that at the end of time there is this cataclysmic apocalypse event known as Ragnarök, right? It's like where everything is destroyed and blah, blah, blah. And that's all you really know. If you don't look deep into this stuff, you're just like, oh, everything is just blown up and everything's destroyed. Well, that's not really the end of it. It's more mystical than that. Ragnarok isn't the end. It's the beginning of a new realm.
Which is like Hindu cosmology, where you have the yuga cycles spanning many thousands of years, and it's these eternal cycles of the universe creating and then destroying itself and then creating again.
Right.
Like the eternal dance of Shiva.
Yeah.
The creator and the destroyer.
Exactly. And it's low-key like some... Low-key?
Hey.
It's low-key like some as above, so below reincarnation type shit. It's like if we reincarnate on this little level, then on all the higher levels, there's reincarnation as well. But the reason I bring all this up right now is in relation to Eden's Orchard. Eden's Orchard is thought to be, according to these prophecies and such, one of the only things that survives Ragnarok.
Oh, wow.
And it's also thought... Now, these things, like post-Ragnarok type things, these are the things that are like pieced together by historians, like deep,
Like reading the different texts and corroborating them.
Exactly. Like you won't just pick up the Edda and see this. It's like you look at other works by Snorri Sturluson. You piece together things from like real accounts of Scandinavia at the time, whatever has survived through history. They believe that certain gods will survive. I'll talk about that at length later. But that Eden's tree and Eden's orchard would also survive, and that like whoever were the survivors among the gods, among the Valkyrie, among all these different orders of these deities, they would go there and start anew. They would start from Eden's orchard and they would start anew.
Wow.
Which is like kind of crazy because there's this... I don't know if you've heard about this. We're going to talk a little bit about it today, but there's this like there are theories swirling around that the Bible is post-apocalyptic Norse mythology.
Wait a minute. So are you suggesting that like maybe let me wrap my brain around this. So you're saying that the Bible is like the next cycle, or what are you?
There are a lot of people that like have pieced together some compelling theories that could be
like
possible.
there was a cycle before. It's an older way, and
that essentially the cycle prior to the Bible was Norse mythology.
Interesting.
So get this. Well, I guess we'll go ahead and get into that specific weirdness because it's weird.
Yeah, I've never heard that.
Yeah. Okay. Let's just start there. I wasn't gonna start there because it is pretty like fringe and out there.
I like fringe.
Let's just start there. All right. So the Christianity angle. I went a little deep on this, and shout out to this guy on TikTok. He's awesome. Ragnarok Johnson.
Yeah.
He like does a lot of these where he compiles this stuff, and like it's very interesting, and it's good content. All right. We mentioned Balder. Balder, among the Norse pantheon of gods, Balder was the god of light.
Ah.
Balder was known as like this. He was like this, like he was like innocent. He wasn't like a great warrior. He wasn't jealous like many of the gods. He didn't really want very many things. He was just like a peaceful god of light. He is known as the most innocent and peaceful god amongst the Aesir, which the Aesir are the highest rank of gods amongst the. It's
like Odin, Thor,
yeah.
Loki, and then you had the Vanir gods, which were like the older gods, I guess, like Freya.
Yeah, the Vanir. Then you have the Jotnar, which would be equivalent to like the Titans of Greek mythology.
The giants.
The giants, exactly. They're like, they're definitely godlike, like that, but they're not considered, like they're not on the level of the Aesir. So, as a part of Ragnarok, it's prophesied that Balder will be killed, and as a result, Ragnarok will begin to unfold. That's the whole like crux of Ragnarok. Balder has to die. Also included in the prophecy is that all of the gods will be killed, the realms will die, and be born anew as one peaceful realm, and that Balder will be resurrected as the one true God of gods, and would bring forth a single man and woman named Ash and Elm.
Like trees. Because it's believed
Adam,
that...
Eve,
Right.
Ash, Elm. Yeah, like trees.
But
yeah.
also they believe that Yggdrasil was an ash tree.
Right. And they would be reborn to lead the world, the new world, in peace.
Wow.
Let's unpack that a little bit.
I think it's also important to note exactly like how popular Norse mythology has breached into pop culture. Like, you know, it started with Lord of the Rings. I had to take this class in college. It was called Lewis and Tolkien, Religious Themes of Lewis and Tolkien. And we had to read like the Narnia books, watch documentaries about Tolkien. And when you get into his earlier writings, he was he was a Catholic, and a lot of the themes were based on Catholicism, but all the lore and the creatures and the mythology was all based on Norse myth. You know, I know I just changed the subject there, but I wanted to put that into people's minds.
You bring up Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, like Lord of the Rings, aside from like the Catholic Christian themes, all the lore, the elves, the dragons, all this stuff, the dwarves, that's Norse myth.
Yeah.
It's all from Norse myth.
Yeah.
And then you have stuff today, you know, Thor, Ragnarok.
Oh my God, there's tons. It's never
God of
ending.
War. Like it's becoming mainstream now.
Even Vikings, the show Vikings, such a sick show, by the way. That show is.
And I wanted to use this as an opportunity to say that in our Discord server, we have been. It's pretty much near the end now. We're going to do a season 2, but we've been playing Valheim, which is a video game based about like Norse myth, and it's very cool. But yeah, I wanted to talk about the pop culture angle there. Like it's.
Oh yeah,
it's everywhere.
It's everywhere. It's become synonymous. Like and I don't think it was necessarily always like that. Like I feel like Greek mythology is kind of like the one that most people know.
Right.
And so it's kind of the one that you see the most, and you see the inspiration from the most. But I mean, yeah, but prior to recent years, it was like you have Lord of the Rings, which came out in the 1940s, The Hobbit did, and then the 60s was Lord of the Rings. And then like in the 80s, you had Thor, the comic.
Yeah.
That was it. But then for some reason, in the past like 10 or 20 years, there's all kinds of other stuff coming out about. It's all like Norse mythology.
Yeah,
it's all this
there's
stuff.
an explosion of Norse myth.
I think it's just as important. I mean, I think all myth systems, all mythologies are kind of on equal footing in terms of.
They're interesting. They're worth exploring. They're worth dissecting and talking about.
Yeah.
Back to what you were saying, though. That's completely wild. I didn't know that. I knew that, like, the Ragnarok myth was more of a metaphor of, like, the great cosmic scale of the universe being on a cycle of death and rebirth. Like, for example, one of my favorite symbols in all of Norse myth, the Ouroboros.
Oh,
There's I don't know, is he a Jotun or what is Jormungandr?
He's a Jotun.
Okay.
Jormungandr?
Yeah, so there's this godlike
giant.
being, a giant, Jormungandr, who is known as the world serpent. And if you've ever seen the symbol, people are like, "Oh, it's an evil symbol." No, it's not. It has a meaning. It's the serpent going all the way around the world and eating its tail. I think that's on the Kansas album.
Oh yeah,
I'm pretty sure it's on a Kansas album.
It's either Kansas or Boston. I think
it's Kansas because Boston's the UFOs.
Oh right,
Boston has UFOs on the
right.
album.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's a very popular esoteric symbol. It's the Ouroboros, and it represents the belief that the world serpent, Jormungandr, was wrapped all the way around the world, and he would eat his tail. But it's metaphorical. It's about the continual cycle of death and rebirth, even of the very cosmos.
Yeah.
Which is what Ragnarok symbolizes. But I didn't know it goes so far as to say, like, the creation of a new... It's like Garden of Eden.
Oh, yeah.
It's like Adam and Eve. Yeah, it makes you wonder, like, did they copy some of that from the Norse myth?
It's pretty weird. It's pretty weird how that... And there's other stuff, too. But actually, you're
But it also makes me wonder, because... They weren't, like, back when the Old Testament was being formed, I doubt that they were even near Scandinavia. what it really makes me wonder, is this a common theme that's been transmitted to mankind?
That's what I think it is.
Across different cultures.
Yeah, because if you look at the timeline, this Edda, this stuff wasn't written down until the 1200s, which we would have already had the Old Testament. We would have already had
we would have had the whole Catholic Empire.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it would be near its fall. In fact, just a couple hundred years from the fall of Rome and the big Catholic Empire and shit. But yeah, interesting enough, there are a lot of those that cyclical symbolism in Norse mythology, like the Skull and Hati.
Yeah,
Skull and Hati, the wolves that chase the sun and moon. They're on that constant cycle of sun and moon, and there's so many. Jormungandr, Magni Modi. There's very many. There's a lot of duality,
right?
Symbolism, and then there's a lot of that cyclical thing. And see, I never knew that there was post Ragnarok stuff.
Right. I didn't either. I thought it was just Ragnarok happens and then it starts over again.
I didn't even know it starts over again. I was just I just thought Ragnarok happens, boom, that's the end of the Norse pantheon. I didn't know anything about it starts over again.
Yeah.
And that's why there's these weird time dilations in Norse mythology. There's this strange stuff about it's prophesied that Thor will fight Jormungandr in the end, but then also it's after their fight, he's sent back into. You good, Alex? You good?
Yeah, my headphones fell off.
He's sent back in time. There's weird time travel stuff and it gets kind of wild, but I don't know. I always just thought that Ragnarok was the end of it.
Well, here's my notes on Ragnarok. I thought this was cool.
Yeah.
Like the Christian apocalypse, Ragnarok sets out a series of events, a series of signs that will ultimately define the end of times. The first sign is the Fimbulvetur, or the Fimbulwinter, which is the final long, continuous, cold winter with constant snow that lasts a year. It's the sign. Then a red rooster called Fjalar will warn the giants that Ragnarok has begun. A second rooster will warn all the dead that Ragnarok has begun. Finally, a third red rooster called Gullinkambi, a rooster that lives in Valhalla, a majestic hall located in Asgard, like we talked about. Asgard is the realm where the gods like Odin, Thor.
It's like Olympus.
Yeah, it's just like Olympus. Located in Asgard, will warn all the gods about the beginning of the end. The god Heimdallr, who's one of my diamond gods of Smite.
So
I love playing him
Heimdall.
in Smite. The god Heimdallr will use his trumpet to play a specific tone. Oh, his trumpet is the Gjallarhorn, by the way.
That big horn.
Yeah.
The Ricola horn.
Yeah. He plays a specific tone that will be heard in Valhalla, and this will bring back the dead to life, and they will march to the realm called Vigrid, a place of battles where the final battle will take place. The seas will be torn apart, and the world serpent, Jormungandr, a serpent so large that it surrounds the earth and grasps its own tail, will raise itself from the depths of the oceans to join the battle. The gods Balder and Hod will also return from the dead to fight in this final battle. The god Loki was the son of a giant and was known as a trickster god with the ability to shapeshift. His role in the myth is unique and controversial since he appears to both help the gods and hinder them. It's kind of like the duality there. He's good and he's evil. It's kind of interesting.
There's a lot of that in Norse mythology.
It's cosmic duality.
Yeah.
It's all metaphors for the cosmos.
Yeah.
Which was the same with the Greeks.
Yeah.
Loki fathered many offspring, including an 8-legged horse named Sleipnir, used by Odin, a dragon, and the wolf Fenrir, who plays a significant role in Ragnarok. According to the story, Loki tricks the blind god of winter, Hod, an action that results in the death of the god Balder.
Yeah.
Son of goddess Frigg and Odin. Frigg is also Freya. Also in witchcraft, Friday is known as the Witch's Sabbath, or also known as the Day of Frigg. It's like a day, because she was like this goddess of magic. And
right.
Freya, actually, you know what's cool about Freya? A little side note: the word Freya literally translates into the lady.
Whoa!
And she's like this shining queen. She's married to Odin. She's like the goddess, the queen of the Valkyrie. Interesting little connection there.
That's cool.
But an action that results in the death of the god Balder, son of Frigg and Odin. Because of this, he was punished and cast into a cliff where he was to remain bound into a rock until Ragnarok, the end of the world. This bears similarities to the punishment of Prometheus, an ancient Greek myth, who was bound to a rock for giving fire to humanity. Loki and his horde. Right.
That's what is it? Prometheus or Proteus?
Prometheus.
Prometheus. Yeah.
Proteus was the one, I think, who was out on the rock in the sea. And
Right, yes.
had prophecy.
Yep.
Yeah. But we talked about Proteus and Prometheus in our Lighthouse episode.
Yep. That's what that movie's all about.
That was a good episode.
Yeah. Banger.
So Loki and his horde with the frost giants was sailed to Vigrid in the final battle against the Aesir on a ship made out of the nails of dead men. Ugh, that's gross. Like a ghost ship. All monsters and giants, like the flame giant Surtur, Hell's dog Karm, good name there, the wolf Fenris, and the leader of the giants, Hrim, will create a powerful army against the gods. The result of the war is that Thor and Odin and most of the gods will die, and the dragons will release fire that will destroy all life on Earth. But this is not the end. Things start again with a new race. A new world arises from the depths of the sea. The first two mortals will be called Lif and Lifthrasir, woman and man, and they will repopulate Earth. The gods Vali and Vidar, as well as the sons of Thor and Hoenir, will survive the battle, go to Idavol, which will not be destroyed in Ragnarok, and then the gods Balder and Hodor will be returned and a new era will begin.
See, that's another thing that I saw is like there were some areas where names don't match up. Because I saw like the Leaf and Leafnir thing, and then I saw Ash and Elm. And then, like, some of the names.
But it's the same thing.
It's all the same thing. Yeah, it all means the same thing. But yeah, that's essentially the story of Ragnarok. I always just thought it ended there. I always thought it was just the cataclysm event that ends the Norse myth. But
well, it's like the Book of Revelations. There's this final battle where Jesus rides in on a cloud and the angels are blowing trumpets, just like Heimdall blowing trumpets for the gods of Valhalla.
It's crazy.
But Jesus rides in. I do like this version better. He wins.
Yeah.
He beats the evil. He kills all the demonic whatever. And then it says that there's peace on earth for 1,000 years until one more final judgment, and then it's peace forever.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And then you have the Hindu cosmology, same thing. The Yuga cycles. The universe is destroyed by Shiva's dance, and then it's built anew.
Yeah, so it's like where do we draw the line between mythology and religion? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We're talking about all the same stuff here in Greek mythology, in Norse mythology, but then also in Hinduism, Christianity. It's like it's all the same symbolism. Why is there a line drawn that says this is mythology, this is religion?
Well, because the Catholics murked the world and they're like, we're going to burn you alive.
Exactly. They went on a huge spree, which, by the way, I loved the History of the Bible episode that we did because it very much highlighted that for me. And like, yeah, I mean, I think that is the answer. It's the Catholics.
And also this, I don't think that the Vikings, for example, were very much interested in making converts to their religion. I think they were more interested in pillaging and destroying their enemies.
Yes.
And ritualistically sacrificing them to the... I don't think they were trying to convert. I think they were trying to destroy.
That's
exactly, there's a big difference in the way these systems operate.
The Vikings went on massive Christian killing sprees. They would show up to an island full of Catholics or Christians, or they didn't care what religion you were. If you didn't believe in,
they were on site.
Yeah, they were literally just straight.
And then you had the Catholics that are like, no, you got to confess this prayer, or you're gonna your soul is gonna burn in the afterplace. So do this, or we're gonna burn you now.
Yeah, there was no
and send you to the afterplace.
There was no exchange of words with the Vikings. It was like they would burn the boats.
Literally,
they would pull up to your island. They'd pull up to your land on their boats and burn the boats because they had no intention of going back. They had one intention. It was to go in and kill everybody in the name of the Norse gods. And like, if they die, great.
Yeah, you go to heaven.
That's what they want.
It's kind of sadistic.
It is very sadistic. Oh, you know another pop culture one we didn't mention? Skyrim.
Oh my God, dude.
Skyrim is like straight up.
I wanted to talk very quickly about this very good horror film. It's not that scary. That's not why it's good. It's just some movies are like not that scary, but the vibe and the atmosphere is perfect. Yeah. It's called The Ritual. It's a sick movie.
Wait a minute. This is the one with like the antler.
Yep. It's the bastard son of Loki.
I saw the trailer and I was like, that looks cool.
Yeah, it's the bastard son of Loki.
Sometimes I see like a trailer for a scary movie and I'm like, I want to watch that.
Dude, you like spooky stuff.
I do.
You just have...
I don't like being jump scared.
Right, but you like the vibe.
Yeah, I don't like feeling like I'm going to have a heart attack like anticipating a jump scare.
But you like The Ritual because it's
We've
not...
been playing Phasmophobia.
Yeah, it's good.
It actually is really
Nick,
good.
do you like roller coasters?
No.
Same reason.
Same reason, yeah. So I don't know though, because it's the same paradox with me. It's like, yeah, I don't like them, but like I've been on every ride at Carowinds. Like I've been on most of them at like Universal and Disney, and like, you know.
I feel like the difference is it's just shorter lived.
Yeah. And
A
honestly,
movie's like long. Like they like to keep you in that spot, but
here's the
roller
crazy
coaster.
thing. It's always, for me, it's the anticipation.
Yeah.
That's the thing I can't do.
But then you do it, and it's like, oh, that was fun.
And it's
so
fine.
you're a real fast pass kind of guy.
Yes, 1,000% yes. Because, all right, so for instance, we're at like Islands of Adventure with the Hulk roller coaster, right?
That's an insane ride.
It's insane.
Just,
I mean, it's
just rode it like recently.
really.
Yeah.
Wait, when'd you go,
Went to Universal
Like 3 weeks ago?
3 weeks ago.
4 weeks ago.
dude?
The new Jurassic Park ride, the Velocicoaster. That is the best.
There's a new
Yeah.
Jurassic Park ride.
They have a whole new theme park
Man.
coming out.
Oh, I know, 2025.
Something like that.
Which sucks because like our entire family is going in November, which I don't care. It's gonna be so much fun. We're going to Disney and Universal
Nice.
Yeah.
in
Dude,
November. I haven't been in
Velocicoaster.
5 years or so.
Do it. The fast pass line was like 30 or 40 minutes.
This is what I'm saying, dude. If I walk up, if I see this big ass roller coaster, it looks scary as shit, and I'm like, oh, I don't know about that. If there's nobody in line, yeah, get my ass on that thing. I don't care. Like, I don't have time to think about. Like, I don't have time to be nervous. It's just get me on it, and there we go.
Yeah.
And then whatever. It's when I'm waiting in a line of 100 people, and I'm just sitting there thinking in my head, like, I'm freaking out right now, nervous, waiting 30 to 45 minutes to go and be scared on a roller coaster. It's like it just doesn't compute in my mind. But then when I do it, I'm like, that was fun.
Yeah.
You know? It's the same, whatever that is, it's the same connection. Okay. So, sorry, you were talking about something awesome.
I don't remember, but
Well, listen, I'm going to jump back into the Christianity stuff real quick.
yeah.
Let's talk about our boy, Loki. So, what do you know about Loki?
I mean, admittedly, not much. Just that he's like a trickster archetype. He's, he can be perceived as good. He can be perceived as evil.
But what everybody knows about Loki is he's a trickster.
Yeah.
He's one of those like tricky trickster gods. All right, so there's theories in these like theories that I've found about the connections between Christianity and like the end of Ragnarok and Norse mythology and stuff. They suggest that like, you know how we've talked before about how the Old Testament God and the New Testament God are like very
Gods.
different?
Yep.
Well, a lot of scholars theorize that like maybe that Old Testament God was Loki.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's
so,
interesting you say that too, because the next episode we're going to do is Gnosticism, and that's the entire subject.
What? The
Gnostic-
Old Testament?
Versus them being different gods.
Oh, right,
That's the
right,
whole
yes.
premise of
Yes.
Gnosticism.
All right, so according to such theories, Loki, who is the god of mischief and fire, fled into his daughter's realm of Helheim after Ragnarok and shapeshifted into a snake to corrupt Ashen Elm into his favor, changing his own name to Lucifer.
What?
Which in Norse it would have been Balder. Lightbringer.
Oh.
That's literally what Lucifer means.
Interesting.
Balder means Lightbringer.
Okay.
Lucifer means Lightbringer. And this is the other crazy thing. Like, all right, because according to the prophecy, it's Loki's fault. It's Loki's fault that Ragnarok starts because he kills Balder.
Interesting. Dude.
He'd be a little mad.
You know what's crazy? Because you don't know this while you're playing the first God of War. You don't, spoiler, you don't realize that the kid is Loki, and it's his arrows that
Kill him. Exactly.
That's deep.
Oh, yeah.
They're like lore accurate with it.
That was the first time that, the only thing that's not accurate there is like Balder's kind of a dick in.
Right.
But all that is changing their like personalities.
Right.
Which is like, who cares? Who's to say what their personalities were like? Whatever.
That's cool, dude.
That was the first thing when I was playing that first God of War game. It was because he had mistletoe arrows That's in our song, dude.
Yeah.
That's in our song. Our Twiceborn has a song about Ragnarok.
Uh-huh.
And in the song, a mistletoe arrow brought down my son. That's literally how it happens in Norse mythology. The only thing that can damage Balder is mistletoe. And in the game, in God of War, Freya makes Atreus, who is actually Loki, you find out at the end of the first God of War game, makes him an arrowhead of mistletoe. Not to kill Balder, just because they went to some realm where he needed to have mistletoe that would be able to access certain areas or something like that. But he used an arrowhead. Remember, he tied up his sash for his quiver broke.
Yep.
So they used it to tie it up, and then Balder punches him there, and the arrowhead goes into his hand, and that's what ends up.
You
killing
find
him.
out it is his weakness. Yeah.
When that happened in the game, I was like, "Is Atreus Loki?" Because I knew, I knew that it was Loki who is supposed to kill Balder. So. Now, think about this for a second. If you were Loki and you had everything going for you, you had this master plan and you were trying to evade Ragnarok, but then all of a sudden, by chance, boom, it happens, Balder dies, and you're like, this motherfucker. Like, Balder ruined it all for me. And then Ragnarok happens. You hide in Helheim. You transfix yourself into a snake. All this stuff. Like, wouldn't you want to give Balder such a bad name? You would want to tarnish his name. It was like the theory is that he took Balder's name so that he could tarnish it. Mm-hmm. Lightbringer.
Yeah.
Lucifer.
Like the serpent in the Garden of Eden.
Right. Another thing that is maybe less known about Loki is he is the most jealous of all the gods. He's the most jealous. In fact, I'm pretty sure that's why he kills Balder. He's killed multiple gods because of in what's it called? Asgard. Mm-hmm. There's this big dining hall of Odin. It's in Odin's palace, and it's this dining hall where all the Aesir dine together. And it's a big deal. It's a big honor to be invited to eat at this table. And Loki has been kicked from the table multiple times and then brought back and all this stuff. But on multiple occasions, Loki has either had gods killed or killed them himself because all of the other Aesir are favoring those gods. He's extremely, extremely jealous. He's the most jealous of all the Aesir. Exodus 34:14, for you must worship no other gods, for the Lord, whose very name is jealous, is a God who is jealous about his relationship with you. Mm-hmm. It's
there's no other God beside
right.
him.
Yeah. It's he's this extremely, which is crazy because in the New Testament, it's not like that at all. It's not even, he's not this jealous God. It's not like that at all. Okay. And then finally, going back to Eden and Eden's orchard and the golden apples of Eden and all that stuff. The only tree of life mentioned in the Bible is from the Garden of Eden. So this is a parallel to one of Eden's trees because Eden was the only goddess who could produce these apples.
Wait a minute. What was the apple called? Edun?
Eden.
An Eden.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're just
yeah.
That's what,
I got the concept, but
Eden,
even the word.
Idun.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Wow.
The goddess's name is Idun, and it's the garden of Idun.
Right.
The orchard of Idun.
The apple.
The apple
That's
of
crazy.
Idun. The tree of Idun.
And you know what? Even in the Old Testament, it says, once you eat the fruit of this tree, or once they ate the fruit, they became as gods. Right? You said it was when they ate the apples of Idun that they became the gods.
Yes.
That's how they maintain their power.
That's what gives them their vigor and their long life and their power.
Yeah.
It's the golden apples of Idun.
Wow.
It's wild. So that the only tree of life mentioned in the Bible is from the Garden of Eden. So this could be seen as a parallel to one of Idun's trees, where all those who were once on Baldur's side of the war would go after Ragnarok to live forever in the throne of God of the Aesir, or the 20 elders of the Bible. Mm-hmm. It's like the 20 elders of the Bible that
around
live
the
forever.
throne of God.
Around the throne of God. It's the throne of God. It's Ethan's orchard. It's like there. It's the new realm of the gods. And then there's in Revelation, there's this passage: the blessed are permitted to enter the gates of New Bethlehem and eat of the tree of life.
Wow.
That's Revelation. That's after the apocalypse event.
Mm-hmm.
Afterwards, just like Ragnarok, after the apocalypse event, you can go to the throne of God or New Bethlehem and eat of the tree of life. Like,
I just am desperate to know like how those systems are so similar, yet they're so far apart. Like, what does that mean?
in my opinion, I think it's all psychic downloads.
Right.
Think about this, dude. This is crazy. I don't want to get into too much of a spirit science episode because we got to save those for spirit science episodes. But like the way that we as like flesh and blood human beings got here were because over millions of years, gas clouds formed in space, which eventually pulled sediment and other materials in together, and they collapsed in on themselves in this like massive amount of gravity, creating a huge like singularity of energy. Stars, in the middle of those stars are fusion events, these massive, unfathomable amounts of energy, these fusion events. That is where the building blocks of all life come from. Inside of those stars, carbon and
right.
everything
all the elements,
that we are made of, that everything is made of. It's all of that. And then when those stars die, it gets scattered and spit all across the cosmos, right? You can think of that spiritually as, we are the universe. We are everything, right? If that's true and we literally are absolutely everything, which, we know that scientifically. That is science fact.
Yeah. Like Carl Sagan said, we are made of star stuff.
We are.
Literally the elements of the sun that heat the perfect temperature conditions in this solar system for all the elements to exist and create life. Yeah.
Yeah. It happens because of the fusion at the core of stars. Then you interject the spirituality aspect of it, and it's all just energy. There's like matter is an illusion. It's all just energy and whatever. This is like the most concentrated ball of energy. Like that means since the beginning of time, all that's been happening is energy has just been changing form and spitting. And changing form and spitting and moving and spreading.
Well, it's like Ragnarok, isn't it?
Well, how so?
Because, this stuff is coming together and forming some new life. Stars live billions of years, and then what do? They freaking explode, and they start over again.
So you just said it. You just said what? That's it. That's what I was getting.
I said it's like Ragnarok, isn't it?
Yeah, isn't it, bruv? So you just said it. That's all that's ever been happening. That's all that's ever happened and all that's ever been happening, right?
Right.
That energy is permeating into our subconscious, into our minds, and it's
in our DNA.
Yes. It's through allegory and through artistic representation telling us the story of the cosmos.
Right.
It's being downloaded into our minds artistically. That's our filter. Our filter,
right.
When it passes
We're
through
personifying these concepts with different characters.
Yes. Yeah. It's such a beautiful, amazing thing. Like, the marriage of spirit and science is so beautiful. That's why we have a whole segment about it. But, like, that's what I believe.
Yeah.
I believe that.
Remember in Akira, they said the movie Akira.
Yeah.
They had the whole dialogue where he's explaining that. He's like, it's in our DNA, exactly what we just said with the stars and the cosmos. And
it is.
But at some point we hit this evolution phase where we evolve to that level and unlock that knowledge,
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And it's like even the most nuts and bolts scientists on the world, On the world.
Are you a scientist on the world?
You know why I laughed at that, right?
Yes, the monsters on the world.
There are monsters on the world.
For 50 seconds, I thought there was monsters on the world.
Okay, anyway, yeah, even the most nuts and bolts scientists in the world would not dare to refute what we just said, that we are star stuff. We come from stars, that we would not be here without stars. All that's ever happened since the Big Bang is just explosions of energy and things spreading. So what's happening over the ages of human evolution is we're downloading this information from the cosmos. But think about this. You tell some ooga booga caveman that like that star in the sky, and you know, if you explain it in a nuts and bolts way, it's just gonna like break their mind, and they're like, they can't. It means nothing to them.
Right.
But if you tell them a man like you know, and you explain it to them, a tree, a man, a serpent, a wolf,
Right.
they can understand that.
Right.
That is mythology.
That's an important point, because like that's something that I kind of talk about a lot, but not explicitly in this way, because we're having this conversation officially. But like that's my thing, is like, you know, I see a lot of people out there that are like, I work with this deity, I work with this god, and you know, not to be an ass, but I'm just like, why? Because exactly what you just said, like there's one universal intelligence, there's one force, and throughout time we're just personifying this force in different ways.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like what we talk about all the time with the Tao. It's like, you know, when you label me, you've pushed me away. It's like, I work with Loki, I work with Guan Yu. It's like, okay, well, I work with Goku. You know, it's just a character from a story.
I don't think that there's like zero value in labels. This is just me personally. Like, I've been on this like discovery journey lately of kind of like finding my connection with God again, and actually like the label part of it was very important for me. The label part of it was perhaps the most important part for me. I think the time when the label part matters is, I don't know, this might sound a little weird, but I feel like when you grow up indoctrinated into a religion, and your brain, your mind are being formed in those formative years, being closely associated with a religion, it is like hard, if not near impossible, to break those connections.
Yeah.
And so if you're trying to connect with God, or whatever higher, you know, whatever you want to call it, God is what I'm calling it. I was afraid to call it that for a while, because like, you know, I had some trauma associated with that, and I had a new understanding and whatever. And so I didn't say the word God, or I didn't use the word God.
Because people assume God means Christian.
Yes.
That's a very big misconception.
Right.
Even a Hindu would say they believe in God.
Yes, absolutely.
Matter of fact, they love Jesus.
And man, like,
he's like Krishna.
Things started to change for me in a major way when I started using the labels God and Jesus again.
Yeah.
When I started using those again, it's like, yeah, I didn't use those terms or those labels because I was like, well, I'm not a Christian, like, so I don't want to use those terms, because like I don't want to like pigeonhole myself into that. But that severed the connection for me.
But Jesus was a man.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's just like Confucius was a man. I read his stories. He has great wisdom. You know, Lao Tzu.
Yeah.
And also, God is not a name. God is an existence.
Mm-hmm.
God is a force.
Yeah.
My only thing is, you know, I see people say like, oh yeah, I'm starting to have dreams of, you know, this entity working with me, and you know, should I have, dude, you just have no clue the questions I get. You know, do you ever work with Loki? I'm like, no.
No, yeah, I've definitely seen that stuff too.
Box my mind in trying to work with an egregore. That's all I'm saying. It's like in the Gnostic episode, we'll talk about that. They had a strict belief that like God is God has a secret name that's not known to mortals.
Yeah.
Because it's not words.
I think the only thing that is truly important is the connection.
Right. The
And
connection.
And if the language helps you make a better connection, then great. Then that's great. So if saying you work with a certain God like truly actually strengthens the connection to the real God, great, awesome. That's all that really matters. But like, yeah, no, I mean, obviously, like, it was bad for me to try to pigeonhole myself into like calling it something else, like labeling it like the universe or labeling it like whatever else. It was actually eroding my connection. It was making it disappear.
No, God is God. That's all there is to it.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Let's see. Oh, I want to talk about one more thing from an angle of theosophy.
I'm excited about this one.
Yeah. So we love theosophy. We love Helena Blavatsky, you know?
Well, I don't love Helena Blavatsky.
No.
I don't even like her. But I like a lot of her work.
You know what I mean.
Yeah.
You know what I mean. We like her work.
I think she has a nasty attitude. But yes, I love her work.
Seemingly, yes. So she maintains that the metaphysical truth is not restricted to one specific religious tradition, but can be found in ancient traditions and mythologies around the world.
Brilliant.
That's essentially what we've been talking about. But this is where it gets really cool. Blavatsky describes the most enlightened sages throughout the various mythologies of the world as the 35 Buddhas of confession.
Wow.
You know,
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, I looked into that specifically in like Hinduism, Buddhism, and yeah, there's all these different Buddhas of different aspects and all of this stuff, but there is specific importance placed on these Buddhas of confession because I guess according to some sects of Buddhism, confession is like the first step to true enlightenment. It's, you know.
Interesting.
And this is like Tibetan Buddhism mostly. So in theosophy, Odin, among many others, are considered to be one of those 35 Buddhas. And they believe that Odin, you know, who appeared in like Northern Europe, like Scandinavia area, when the Northern Hemisphere was not yet divided by the Atlantic Ocean. Atlantic Ocean had not yet divided there. It was Pangea still. And because of this, the spiritual founding father of Europe could easily be associated with Atlantis being separated.
Okay.
An ancient civilization. You know, think about it. It's, you know, that's another allegory that is, it probably didn't happen exactly how the myths describe or like the Emerald Tablets describe or, you know.
So, wait a minute. So Helena Blavatsky is, I could be way wrong here, but she's insinuating that some sort of spiritual understanding of Atlantis was in like early Europe in the Norse myth? Or like the knowledge of Atlantis somehow transmitted to the Norse myth?
What it is more, it's that she believes that there are these 35 entities across mythologies and religions who have that sort of thing happening similarly with all of them, where they are a part of this one continent and then it becomes separated, and she notes the similarity to Atlantis.
That's amazing. Okay.
So it's like these 35 Buddhas of confession all seem to have this like symbolic connection to Atlantis.
So let me reiterate this then.
Yeah.
From what I'm understanding here, I've genuinely never heard this topic yet. What I'm understanding here is Helena Blavatsky is saying that in the very, very early iteration of humankind here, back when it was most likely Pangea, one continent, back when there was probably one primordial knowledge, and then there was a split, 35 different Buddhas, as she calls them, split across the world, and that's why we have this knowledge popping up with all this enlightened wisdom. Yeah. That's deep. That makes a lot of sense.
That's what she believes.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah, it does. And it's like, you know, it's like I said, it's most likely it didn't happen exactly how the Emerald Tablets describe it, you know, but if you think about like a one united world that there's no like hoarding of information, there's no separation of information.
Right.
It's one landmass and everybody can share all of the knowledge and wealth. and then they break off, and those sages that are scattered throughout are separated.
And they have these new systems popping up, but
Yeah.
there's so many similarities between them.
Exactly.
That makes sense.
And there are similarities to think about how Hermes Trismegistus is described to have been separated and come back, and it's like Hermes Trismegistus is one of those sages. It's an allegory of those sages, rather. It's the separation of the knowledge of the entity of the sage, and then the eventual returning of that sage, that knowledge, that kind of
Wow,
stuff.
that's deep.
The connections to Atlantis. Yeah, I thought that was really, really cool. And then the last thing is theosophy places a lot of emphasis on Yggdrasil. Because of all the similarities. There's so many. And so I just wrote down some of the similarities and some of the stuff there. So like in Hindu, they have a sacred tree known as Asvatha, which is also called the sacred fig. It's a sacred tree for Hindus, and these are actual trees that you can go and visit in the world today. They're called Asvatha trees.
They've preserved them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like that. Some of them have been preserved for thousands upon thousands of years, and others they grow new ones too. They'll propagate the Asvatha tree, and
cool.
they're sacred.
It's cool that they have the actual physical tree in real life.
Yeah.
Whereas, Yggdrasil and the tree in Eden, they're mythological.
It was believed that Gautama was sitting under one.
Yep.
When he reached enlightenment.
He fasted for 40 days and nights like Jesus did too.
Yeah, that's why they're sacred. The Bodhi tree is what it's called in Buddhism.
Yeah.
But the Bodhi tree, it's known, is an Asvatha tree.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah, really cool. Asvatha is the world tree of Hinduism and bears many similarities to Yggdrasil. So it's a similar thing. The tree is described as having its roots in heaven and its crown or branches below. Devil Wears Prada?
Yeah, but also like Kabbalah, remember?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. There's also
it's as above, so below.
There's also a verse. Isn't there a verse in the Bible that talks about roots above, branches below?
Yes, I don't recall it. But
right.
That's where the Devil Wears Prada got their album title from.
Yeah. The branches symbolize the visible universe, and the roots, the spiritual realm. The roots represent the manifested logos.
Wait a minute. You said the branches were in hell, and the roots were in heaven?
It's hang on, let's see. Yeah, the tree is described as roots in heaven, crown or branches below.
Okay, just below.
Below, like earth, like
okay,
the physical realm.
Gotcha.
So the branches symbolize the visible universe. The roots, the spiritual realm, because remember the roots are above in this.
Mm-hmm.
They represent the manifested logos, which descends into grosser materiality as symbolized by its branches and leaves. It also symbolically represents the human body's nervous system, with its roots in the brain and its branches throughout the body, following the occult principle of analogy, which is as above, so below. This is heavily detailed in some of these theosophical texts. But essentially, the point is that one must climb this tree to be able to liberate oneself and go beyond even the roots, which is even beyond the logos, the mind, the spiritual realm. It's like you climb and then even transcend that, which would be considered enlightenment, like true, like realized enlightenment.
Right.
Yeah. Let's see. I think that's all I got.
Dang, that was really deep.
That's the theosophical spin on it, which I think is so cool. I was telling Ryan earlier, usually whenever we dig into a topic, I like to go theosophy angle first. That's where I was planning on starting, but then we started talking about the Christianity stuff, and I was like,
that's
let's
interesting because I don't think to do that. To look at things through a theosophy lens.
Well, that's why we make a good team.
Yeah, because I think about it just like from an occult lens or an esoteric lens, which is like theosophy, Gnosticism, wisdom, tradition. Like that's interesting. But I do have to say, theosophy does really cut to the core of this symbolism, and
that's what it is for me. It's like if I start with theosophy, even if I don't find like a wealth of crazy stuff, it will point me in the right direction.
Right.
It'll point me to Gnosticism or Hermeticism, or it'll point me to where I need to be going. But even Buddhism, Hinduism, like theosophy is just so, that's the whole purpose of it, of theosophy, is to cross-reference all this stuff. And so it always points me in the right direction. That's why I typically start there.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was really deep.
Yeah, that was really deep. You know what I'm saying?
And I did want to say one more thing. You know, I keep saying, you know, we're not supposed to label things. We're not supposed to label things. You guys listening realize that the lady, the entity that my dad experienced, came and said that she's been known as Hathorn by many other names, right?
Mm-hmm. Many other names.
Yet my dad never calls her any of those names.
Never.
He just calls her the lady.
The lady, yeah.
That's what I wanted to get across. So many people ask me, man. I've had probably thousands of messages at this point. And Dad has I couldn't even tell you how many thousands upon thousands. And we get so many messages like, how does it relate to Christianity? How does it relate to Islam? How does it relate to, you know, this religion, that religion, this religion, that religion? And I'm just like, you know, like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, it's God, you know, just keep an open mind. And that's all I'm saying. Like, I don't want people to get so boxed into where they have to believe one certain type of way, or they have to think about it in one certain type of way. Like, that's all I'm saying. I'm not trying to like shame people for what they believe in.
For sure.
I want people to keep an open mind and understand that God in its truest form is not bound to an identity or to a name that we came up with. God is incomprehensible. I believe that the true form of God is probably light yet not even visible, you know? Like, I don't know.
No, I agree.
That's all I'm saying.
I think that the only purpose of labels ever was so that you could kind of just begin, not to even fathom it, but fathom how to connect with it. Like we were saying earlier, like, how do they describe the story of the cosmos? By putting it in terms that you can understand.
Yeah. It's definitely helpful.
I think in most cases, I think that's generally like, that's the right idea. Like, trying to put a specific label on it is just silly. It's never going to fit.
Like, it is not this.
No.
But if you want to try to understand it, read this.
Sure, yeah. You're never going to fit it into a specific box, a specific name, a label, whatever. I think that it's just interesting that in my case, that was the part that was making things difficult for me, was removing all labels completely and taking all of it completely away. Everything that I had learned, like, you know, in Christianity, and completely, entirely removing all of that, it severed my connection to the true, real God. Mm-hmm. It's a weird paradox because
it
like
is.
Yeah, you cannot fit it into a label, a name, a specific God, none of that stuff.
But then how do I connect to it?
Yeah, it could, you know, I think it's probably just that I have some unresolved religious trauma, and it's somewhere, it's like I haven't worked that stuff out yet, and so that tether to those labels is still present.
Right.
And it's like, this whole journey has been me realizing that tether is still present, but rather than just saying like, well, I gotta fucking cut it off, it's like, well, no, that doesn't have to be cut off. I can use that to connect while still understanding, in my higher understanding, that like, yeah, the label, it's not like, it's just a word. It doesn't make sense. It's not going to fit into any one category or box.
My dad always tells me this, that how do we know what God is? All we can do is imagine God. It's in our dude, he'll be speaking in front of 50 to 100 people. He'll say, you know, we only imagine God. We don't know what God is. And he says, personally, I imagine God as a woman. Mm-hmm. And he appeared to me as a woman. Yeah. The lady, you know? Yeah. And he's like, I don't need, if you think of God as a man, that's okay. You imagine God how you want to imagine God. This is how I imagine God. Uh-huh. You know, he's not saying her name is this and this and this and this. And that's all I'm saying, man, because I really do get a lot of messages from people. They're like, oh, yeah, I'm working with the spirit of Guan Yu, which is like some minor Chinese deity. It's like, great, you know. I'm imagining the highest force in the universe.
Right.
That's all I'm saying. I'm just giving advice. I get a lot of questions about how to connect. And anyway, I think this was an outstanding episode.
I did too. This one was super fun.
It was fun.
It zipped on by.
Yeah, I really didn't have much more. I mean, you knocked it out of the park.
Sweet. Hell yeah. I'm fascinated with mythology in general. Norse and Greek are my two favorites. And one day we got to hit Greek mythology.
Oh, definitely.
So hard.
Absolutely.
That'll be litty.
Yeah, and then I want to do a wisdom tradition episode on the oracles of Delphi and the Elysian mystery tradition.
Yeah.
I think we do an episode like this that's like Greek myth, and then we hit deeper into the like esoteric
That's the way to
angle
do it.
of it, you know?
Yeah, that's the way to do it for sure.
Yeah.
I love that.
Rocking and rolling, brother.
Rocking and rolling.
We say Helheim, yeah, brother.
Helheim, yeah, brother. Valhalla.
What's the Led Zeppelin song, dude?
Which one?
Don't.
Oh, the immigrant song.
Yeah, the immigrant song. I love that song, bro. That's a good one.
Yeah, that's some Viking
That'll
shit.
get your Norse jimmies going.
Okay, bye, guys.
Get me out of here. Bye, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more, check out our other videos.
And before you go, don't forget to subscribe. See you next week. Peace.